Morning, everyone. We're going to call to order the Monday, February 26, 2024, Wilson County Commissioners Courts, 9 o'clock a.m. Where we begin, we'll have our morning prayer and then our Pledge of Allegiance, our prayer led by Commissioner Martin.
You bow your heads and pray with me. Heavenly Father, we reach out to you today to perform the business of Wilson County in the presence of the citizens. And Father, we just ask that you bless everything that we do. And Father, we just ask for prayers for Commissioner Aiken's sister as she goes through surgery today. We just ask that you lead the doctor's hands in their work. And Father, there are many out there today that are suffering and need your helping hand, Lord. We just ask that you reach out and put your helping hand on them. And Lord, just help us to all be disciples in your Son that you sent to die for us on the cross. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Before we proceed, agenda item number 3 for public comments, let the minutes reflect we have a full quorum. All right, public comments, anybody? Nobody signed, okay. We have our certificates and completion awards. One. All right, place into the minutes of Texas Judicial Academy for Rachel Gonzalez. She attended February 16, 2024. Skip over number 5. That's a 10 o'clock public meeting. We're going to proceed to 6. We have Commissioner Martin, Precinct 1, discuss and take action to reappoint Rudy Cantu to the ESD number 2 board. Is Mr. Cantu here?
Yes, he is, yeah, as well as most of the rest of the ESD2 board. And I'd just like to say, I think these folks have done a fine job of getting ESD2 turned around and making progress. And so I'll make a motion to reappoint Rudy Cantu as a commissioner to the ESD2 board. Check.
Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner King. Is there any other discussion on agenda item number 6? Hearing none, a call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, ayes have it, motion passes. Mr. Cantu, why don't you come on up to the podium up here, and I'm going to swear you in. All you do is say your name, I'm going to say the rest for you, okay? I
Rudy Cantu,
do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of Commissioner, ESD2 of the state of Texas, and will, to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of the state. So help you God.
so help me God.
All right, sir. All right, good deal. I'm going to get you to sign something right quick. You want to come around this end right here? And that way, you need to get to work, I'll get it down that way. So just, and I'll date it for you. Okay, and right here is another one. All right, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thank y'all for coming. I know that was short, y'all, but I appreciate all the work that y'all are doing in ESD2.
Thank you. We now move to agenda item number 7. Again, Commissioner Martin, Precinct 1, discuss, take action to go out for bids for the TxDOT match project for County Road 128.
Yes, so under the off-system bridge funding 2 years ago, TxDOT completed a bridge on County Road 204. As per the agreement for the TxDOT to construct that bridge, the county had to match a project of around $155,000. The plans have been prepared for that, and they're ready to go out for bid, so I want to make a motion to go out for bids for the Tech Stop Match project on County Road 128.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner Paradola. Is there any other discussion regarding agenda item number 7? Hear none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Ayes have it, motion passes. We move to agenda item number 8. We have Velma Antonio Moreno from Camino Real Community Services, our clinic director, requests an office door and/or a barn door to be added to an open office that needs privacy for a new hire position. Ms. Moreno, are you here, ma'am? Okay. Yeah, is it not on? Punch the back.
Push the bottom.
Yeah, there you go. No.
I think you gotta push it and hold it, maybe.
Thank you. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Yes, I am here representing, of course, Camino Real, and the purpose of me being here is, obviously, we are growing, we're expanding, not only as far as employees, but we're also expanding as far as the services that we're providing to our mental health population. So with that being said, we now have an additional support staff that we would like to place next to our front desk to be able to do our scheduling. And of course, we need privacy. So we do have the office space, but we just need an additional door to close to kind of keep the privacy as far as the phone conversations that are being made. So I am here requesting if the county would allow for either a door or a barn door to be installed in one of our office areas.
Are you asking for the county to fund it too?
Yes.
Have you gone out to look at some bids or some prices?
No, I have not, simply because I wanted to wait to see if permission would be given, or I don't know if the county, if y'all have someone that y'all have as far as to do that type of work.
So the difference between a conventional door and a barn door, why is that?
Because of the way that the office is set up, it does not allow for, I guess for kind of like for handicap purposes, for the door to open. It can, but I mean, it would make it a little bit more feasible if we were to put a barn door to slide just to make it easy access for the, and it's hard to explain, but if I'm looking at it, the door needs, a sliding door or a barn door needs to be able to open to go into another office area, which is our front support staff. So it would just, I mean, it would be easier for a sliding door to be made. But of course, we'll take anything at this point.
Commissioners,
Do you think can our maintenance staff do that, do you think?
I've already talked to him, he can, he just needs approval.
Do we have an estimated cost from Simon, or?
What line item on our budget do we have for those buildings?
I mean, we have a budget for building repairs and maintenance. I don't know if that's something that,
Should fall in the thing.
I think it just depends on how much it's gonna cost. I mean, up to, if you're gonna approve something, I need to know an amount up to what, so that we know.
Well, I was gonna suggest maybe for the next court, let them get some prices together and the options and what they are, and then come back and present that. I have no problem allowing them to install a door.
Well, I mean, can we not decide on a price range for a door today?
Your barn doors gonna run you a lot more than
Yeah, they do.
And like I said, we're okay with anything. I mean, just,
Standard opening, or is it?
Yes.
How big the opening is? Is it 36 inch, or?
I want to say it's a 36 inch because of the handicap accessibility.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a barn door, if I'm understanding, it just needs to be a sliding door.
I understand the concept. There's more privacy involved in one that opens and closes as far as noise.
Right.
Barn doors that I've always been associated with, you can hear a conversation on the other side of it.
Right,
Because there's a gap on the bottom, it rolls and
right.
on a track.
I would say our maintenance people or somebody needs to look at it and see what kind of door we need to.
I don't even know where what door we're looking at, but yeah,
So
get some prices and.
put eyes on it and see whether we need a.
Okay, so before we vote on that, we're gonna table it. Do y'all mind that? Only problem?
To get quotes on
To get
what
quotes
it
on it?
would cost.
No problem. Now, my question is, are the quotes, I mean, do I need to look into that, or is
No,
that
let
something?
Simon do that.
Okay,
Let,
perfect.
Mr. Cardenas do that.
Okay.
I'll entertain a
I'll
motion
make
to
a
table.
motion that we get our maintenance people to look at it and get some prices and tell us whether we need a sliding door or regular door or what, and then come back to court so we can.
To
Let,
approve
let,
the
let's,
proposal.
let's
Don't have a
entertain,
problem
let me
doing it,
entertain
just-
a motion to table it first, and then we can do a motion on that.
To table, the Camino Real Community Service Clinic, clinic for a door.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner King, second by Commissioner Paradola to table.
Thank you.
No, okay, hold on, we're not. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, the motion passes for table. And now, Commissioner Paradola, you want to entertain that motion?
I'll make a motion that we let our maintenance department go and evaluate what type of door we need and get some prices and come back to court, so we've got a better idea of what we're talking about.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Paradola, second by Commissioner King. Crystal, did you get that wording on that second one? Or you'll go back?
Can we go back, because
Okay, I just want, got it, all right. Any other discussion regarding having Mr. Cardenas go out and get prices on doors? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, motion passes. Thank you, ma'am. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, his motion was simply to get our maintenance staff to get pricing for the doors and bring it back for the next court.
Evaluate whether we need a sliding door or regular door and then come back with prices.
Then we'll take it from the table when we get back to the next meeting for that. All right, we move to agenda item number 9. We have Commissioner Scott Aiken, Precinct 4, receive a report from Veterans Service Officer Ray Herrera on the recent Veterans Breakfast held at the Stockdale Church of Christ and discuss future events.
Morning, sir.
Morning, Judge, Commissioners. So we held the first Veterans Event Breakfast in Stockdale for the first time. We had about 80 participants register. I want to say, give or take, we had about 80 attend. It's an event that we bring resources under one roof as well as camaraderie. One thing I like to point out, for people who have not served in the service, one thing it reminds me of is usually after, in the military, after you have a successful training, a successful evolution, mission, or whatever the case may be, we tend to gather what we in the Navy call the mess decks, right, or the chow hall, and we congregate there. And you hear the people laughing, talking, debating, and I really feel like what these events bring to the table, in a sense of camaraderie, bringing those veterans of all branches together, a place where they can feel safe, something they're used to, as well as have a free breakfast and bring resources of all types. This last time we had things like small businesses, life insurance, we had home loans, we also had Camino Real out there, and a big important aspect of these events is these are all people that reside within Wilson County or contribute to veterans and their family members. So it's kind of key to the veteran success. And I always say that a veteran is constantly always trying to integrate back into society, into what we call civilian life. And whether you're a retiree or you did 4 years, it's kind of a lifelong challenge to always go through. So it is key. I think these events, again, first time in Stockdale, we will be back, and I plan to continue to move it around. This next event that we're looking at is going to be back in Floresville. We're looking at having a veterans barbecue. I'm not going to go too much into detail about what we're going to have. I want it to be kind of a surprise, but we're going to throw a little change and a mix in it. So yes, that's going to be May 11th. I'm still looking at locations, but right now we do have the the show barn, should I say, reserved, but it's still up in the air. I'm trying to look at a different venue. So And real quick, excuse my voice. I spent this past weekend coaching my daughter through her state championship in wrestling, so that's why my voice is cracky there.
Well, I attended the breakfast. I attended all of them, and it was fantastic. You know, we were down in the numbers, but, you know, it's, people have things to do, so. And I was glad to see everybody from, even, and Glenn with his group's always there and big supporters, so.
We had a typical Texas that the day before was 40 degrees warmer than the day of. And the wind factor, I felt
There's a lot
like
of
that-
wind.
That probably held some people back, but
But it was a good venue, yeah.
the church enjoyed hosting it. And I'd like to say that your speaker, Browning, if I'm
Mr. Browning, yes, sir. Chaplain Browning.
So, the whole, let's go get a Coke and talking about, you know, one person needing to talk to another, and then talking about the suicide rates involved in serving our great nation, you know, it all was very paramount to understanding for somebody on the outside, not having served, you know, exactly what veterans are going through. Now, I encourage anybody to go to the next one because, you know, the resources that were there, the breakout tables, kind of like our conventions that we go to where we try to find products or services that help save Wilson County money. There were people there to serve the veterans. And so you could look around and see somebody at a table going, okay, your services, and so that was neat. And it's an excellent work that you're doing.
Thank you, Commissioner. I also just want to give you a little more props as well. You were very hands-on at this event, and I appreciate it. It's not something I'm used to. I've worked at 2 different counties, and I think you're probably a commissioner that has been the most hands-on I've seen. You're outside, didn't have to be, you know, in the cold inviting people in, and I try to walk out there, and you're like, no, go inside and, you know, handle business. Thank you for that, Commissioner.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we move to agenda item number 10. We have Commissioner King, Precinct 2, Coffee, Cars, and Veterans presentation to Ray Herrera, Wilson County VSO.
Mr. Mood?
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. I'm Glenn Mabe. I'm the president and founder of Coffee, Cars, and Veterans. A little bit of history about why we came about. I'm gonna go off what Ray said. We wanted the camaraderie we had on active duty. Yeah, we're a bunch of gearheads, but we don't care what you drive. Air Force can join, they just have to put fancy hubcaps on their Prius. That goes along with the camaraderie. It doesn't matter what branch of service you served in, you're going to pick on each other. And we miss that out here in a civilian world. And when we get with Ray and do these breakfasts, that's exactly what we do. We pick on each other. And I do the same thing with the judge, and I do the same thing with Mr. King. Uncle Sam's misguided children. Anyway, what we do is once a year we do a car show here in Floresville. And this year will be, actually we're going to try to move it downtown instead of at Richardson's. Last year we came up with some money to give to the VSO to use at his discretion. And when we say at his discretion, it's outside of the budget items. That way he doesn't have to come out of his pocket to help out the veterans and then wait for the county to reimburse him, because he's got a family to raise. So why not try to support him? So this year, I get my 2 buddies here to help me. This year, we came up with $400, and that $400 comes back, $250 from the car show, and then David Dabalski, the State Farm agent, kicked in $150 to help support the VSO here in Wilson County. So we'd like to present this $400 to Ray. We have to do it here because otherwise it's illegal and we go to jail. Okay, so that's all I got. Ray, you got anything to say?
Thank you. Much appreciated. I'm sure it's going to go to a good cause.
Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. Thank you. Y'all want to, can we get a picture with y'all up there? Come on up here. We need a phone. Brenda? Brenda, what do you do? Is he a separate account for that?
He does not. So the court just needs to make a motion to certify the revenue as a donation coming into the county. It gets deposited into the general fund. Should the court decide that they want to increase the VSO budget by that amount, then that's how we would do that.
At the floor, we'll entertain a motion to accept the donation.
I'll make a motion to accept the donation from Coffee Cars and Veterans to the VSO Ray Herrera.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner King, seconded by Commissioner Martin. Is there any other discussion regarding agenda item number 10? Hearing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those against? Ayes have it, motion passes. We now move to agenda item number 11. We have Commissioner Scott Aiken, Wilson County Precinct 4, has purchased a motor grader from RDO Equipment Company for the sum of $289,872.76. Commissioner, you have the floor.
Judge, this is just for information only. The price does not include the ability to trade in one or multiple graders against the cost. Right now, I'm trying to determine whether or not the trade-in value would take and hold up against putting it out for bids on a website to be able to take and hopefully get more money. As has been said in the court before, all of the maintainers that I have in Precinct 4 are Volvos, and they are no longer made. They are no longer making those, and so we're running into a problem with, in the very near future, we may not be able to get parts or get repairs done. Last year, in my first year in office, I had to spend $50,000 on a remanufactured transmission, so the costs are quite extensive whenever one of these things has a major issue, so.
Okay. Information only. Okay, very good. We'll move to agenda item number 12. We have Mr. Anthony Delgado from the Historical Commission. First subject, 12A, County Historical Commission's 2023 Annual Report and 2024 Goals. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. This morning I come before you to give you an update on your Historical Commission, what they did for 2023, and then also what our goals are for 2024. This past January, we submitted our annual report to the Texas Historical Commission, which is an annual report required by state statute. Your Historical Commission has 11 members. We have 2 members that had resigned this past year. Collected a total of 1,422 volunteer hours. These volunteer hours also include the independent Historical Commission members' involvement with various historical associations and museums throughout the county. It also includes the hours spent to assess the historical markers, the 67 markers that are placed, and these are state historical markers throughout the county. Your Historical Commission members attended 9 training sessions and workshops that THC hosts. Again, regarding the historical markers, the historical marker assessment, which was a goal for 2023, has been complete. All 67 have had eyes on and an assessment made about their status. We also developed and launched onto our County Historical Commission's website the custom navigable map. Apparently, THC thought that was a good thing, since they've created one themselves. So now ours is kind of null and void. But nonetheless, it's still hosted out there. We initiated a THC recommended cemetery preservation program. We created a database. One of the Historical Commission members created a database so that we can better manage the ownership and custodianship of the various cemeteries. There are 142 throughout the county. We also initiated research and are working to publish information about Wilson County-based Texas Rangers over history. So far, Historical Commission member Nikki Storr has created a list of 114 of such Rangers, and she's completed thus far 36 biographies. Going into 2024, your Historical Commission members met, and these are the goals that the Commission has created for themselves for 2024. From the assessment, we recognize that there are 6 historical markers in the county that need refurbishment. They're quite faded, and so the commission members will work with other volunteers to get those 6 refurbished. There's a specific process that THC asks us to follow, so we'll follow that process and get those refurbished. With regards to historical markers, there was a publication made in 2013 that highlights all of the historical markers throughout the county. Since 2013, we have added several markers, so we're working to update that publication, and the second edition will be published this year. We're going to continue to do our cemetery preservation program. This is a multi-year project, as is the next goal, which is the research for the Texas Rangers. If we look at this past year as a baseline, it'll be probably a 3 or 4 year project before we can get all 114 bios completed. We're also going to initiate a historic resources survey plan. So this is a plan on how we're going to conduct the Historic Resources Survey. The Historic Resources Survey is something that the Texas Historical Commission highly recommends. This is where we, Historical Commission members, will work with the county as well as the members of the public to identify the historic resources that we have in the county. As an example, last year there was the former archaeologist from the missions reached out to us, David Nichols, and asked about the foundation, the historic foundation that exists here in the county relative to the gentleman who was responsible for architecting and building the county courthouse. I had no clue what he was talking about, and I don't have a resource that I can turn to, such as a Historic Resources Survey, where I can help understand what it is this gentleman was talking about. So I reached out to our longtime historian, Maureen Lyles, and for about 10 minutes, she just continues to tell me all about this historic foundation, where it exists, how it was created, when it was created. And we're talking about a historic foundation that exists over by the city of Floresville's water treatment facility. So those are the kinds of things, those are the kinds of historic assets that we have in our county that this Historic Resources Survey would go about identify, and then we would plot all of that so that if we're ever doing any work throughout the county, whether it's construction work, whether we're dealing with a developer who wants to put up a new housing project, we have something that we can turn to that says, be careful, because this used to be the Whitman family home that was established in 1810, or whatever the case may be. So that's what the Historic Resources Survey is all about. One of the historical commissioners also brought up the idea that we want to capitalize on the historic tourism, history tourism. That's a multi-billion-dollar initiative that the state has, and we want to bring that to Wilson County. So we're looking into how we can capitalize on history tourism. And then we also want to implement a Legacy Heritage Award program. Independent of those goals from the Historical Commission members, there's a couple of members who are also doing their own research. Dr. Creech, who's the vice chair, she's recently done some work regarding freedom colonies. So these were the colonies that were created by the African Americans following emancipation. She has identified over 30 schools that were created, independent schools in those days where the black citizens of the county were not yet integrated. So she's identified over 30 schools, churches, and as many as 13 freedom colonies. So she continues to do that research. Today's Monday. Saturday, the Wilson County Historical Society, along with Dr. Creech, recently received from HEB a grant of $20,000 to help preserve and protect the Walker Edwards Cemetery, which is a historic black cemetery located just behind HEB. And then there's also work going on to identify, preserve, and promote the early ranching complexes that were here throughout Wilson County. With regards to the Legacy Heritage Award Program, the Historical Commission members have asked you to consider creating such a program that we're going to call the Legacy Heritage Award Program. The purpose of the program is for the county judge and you commissioners at the Commissioners Court to recognize businesses with significant history in the county, as well as landowners that have history in Wilson County. They have pulled together, the Historical Commission has pulled together an outline of what this program might look like. For the businesses, these are any businesses that are registered in the county who have been in business for 25, 50, 75, or 100 plus years. We want to recognize these businesses. These businesses could be corporate or family-owned businesses. The business must be the same business, although over history, we could have had different owners. So let's assume for a moment that the Delgado family created a dairy farm in the early 1800s. Since then, we now have the Johnson family that's in charge of this dairy farm. Same business, just over time, it has, the owners have transitioned, but that would be something that the business would be eligible for recognition under this program. And anyone can nominate a business that has had this history for such an award. We also are looking into creating an award for legacy landowners. So maybe it's not a business, but maybe this is a family who has had long history in Wilson County. We recognize that maybe it's individuals that have had this plot of land for 75 or 100 years or more. The size of the land, there was some long discussion about whether it was, is it just a home on a piece of property here in Floresville, or is it the 75-acre ranch? And the commission members said it didn't matter. That home on a postage stamp piece of property in Floresville is just as important as the 75-acre ranch that's out in the county. No size limit, and again, anyone can nominate. What we would like is your consideration and approval for the Historical Commission members to continue moving forward, to draft what that application process might look like, and then also what the award would look like. We were thinking about something simple, inexpensive. Maybe we're talking about just a proclamation that the court issues and gives it to the historical Delgado Dairy as an example. So with your approval, we would like to move forward on creating and designing the award program. That's all I have by way of update of the 2023 goals, the 2024 goals, and then the Legacy Heritage Award Program.
Wait, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Vote on this.
Absolutely.
I'll entertain a motion that we proceed with this Legacy History Award Program.
I'll make a motion to allow the Wilson County Historical Commission to develop the Legacy History and Award Program.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Markin, second by Commissioner Aiken regarding agenda item number 12B, the Legacy History Award Program. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, ayes have it, motion passes. Anthony, I ask you a question. So we had our working party at the Canary Islander. We cleaned up this weekend.
Yes, sir.
I was talking to Marshall, whose descendants are buried there.
Yes, sir.
Castro. If you can find out for me what would be the procedure and whether the university, Texas State could come down and help us with this, but that berm needs to be brought down and there's stones. Over time, that was a peanut field there, and like a sand dune, it just kept piling up and moving the fence up. So did the stones go up. It needs to be leveled straight down again. Because, we can't even get to those grades at the top up there with those stones. They're hitting them. We're finding them all the time in there. Flounder gig and they're hitting stones.
Yes, sir.
What would be the procedure for us to move forward on? Does the city own that? I've been told the city owns the Canary Islander Cemetery. I'm not sure.
Ownership of the cemetery has been in question for decades. The last anybody was able to find, it's county property. But I'll dig in some more and look to address that question. So let's assume for a moment that we're not able to find an owner. So then we'll have to figure out who would be the one that would be responsible. We have, Dr. Creech, in her work that she's doing with the Walker Edwards Cemetery as an example, she reached out to Texas State. Dr. Ullman is the head of the archaeology department at Texas State, and he came out and did ground penetrating radar to help us identify where the graves may be, because there's only 3 marked graves in that cemetery, but we understand there's over 30 individuals that are interred there. So we would do something similar, reach out and see who might be able to help us do such a thing. I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, identifying, one, if there are any graves underneath those sand berms, and then two, the work to get that sand removed.
And what if we do hit a casket? In fact, I doubt it, but how do we reach?
Yes, sir. There are processes and procedures in place with state statutes on how we handle such a thing.
All right, and there's a gentleman that wants to donate pipe that we could actually make a pipe fence around it, not to close it off to the public, just so that it looks nice. We gotta bring that berm down.
Yes, sir.
And you know, it's historic. There's Juan Seguin's cousins are buried in there, and we have that infamous captain there, Pascual Buqua,
Yes, sir.
Ranger captain. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Move to agenda item number 13. We have our county sheriff, Jim Stewart, Sheriff's Office, monthly progress report. Yes.
I don't see anything that stood out. They pretty much hold station. Looked to me like we're still averaging pretty much across the board. I haven't seen a spike in anything in those stats. With that, I'll go to the jail. The jail, we've got security, the partitions installed for privacy in the cells. We're working on a boiler project right now. Evidently, the hot water heater, the hot water boiler's been acting up. We've been having trouble with that, so I think it was coming in at something like $20-something thousand, but I've got the building maintenance budget for it. They're working on that. I think they started, I guess, Judge, you got somebody started on the vent system?
Yes.
And-
Are they on your side of the building yet?
No. Well, they're in the front.
It's gonna take them a couple.
I don't know, I didn't know what all they were gonna do. I know because I had my jail administrator go out for bids, and then they showed up, so it's no big deal, but yeah, they're working on that. I'm gonna go out for bids for redoing the floor in that courtroom, because it has too much tile coming up,
Ripping up.
and I think it's just in need of a complete new floor.
Talking about the courtroom?
Yeah, the JP Force courtroom, all them laminated tiles are popping up.
I know Judge Gutierrez is having the same problem.
And so I'm gonna go in there and see about getting a new floor put in. And my deal is, I think I'm gonna go back with a ceramic tile floor, because it won't pop up over time. And if you do break one or whatever, it's usually replaceable. This stuff's so old, I don't think we could match it if we tried. So we're gonna move forward with that.
That's the original floor from 1990.
Oh, it is, yes, without a doubt. On the landscaping, I know we don't have contract anymore, is that correct?
We do have guys that come mow.
Okay, because mine's getting real high, I didn't know whether I needed to take care of it myself. I can if I need to, but,
Simon over there today.
okay, appreciate it. Any questions, gentlemen? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Agenda item number 14, you have your county tax assessor collector monthly report. Ms. Barnett cannot be here today. She called me this morning. She's out of town. So if y'all want to look that over, then we'll move to agenda item 14. 15, I mean, sorry. Move to number 15, we have Ms. Lou Serrato, our Permitting and Development Director. 15A subdivision, Cantu subdivision, review and approve final plat, discuss and take action. All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Today, we have the plat for Cantu subdivision. The subdivision is located off of County Road 150. And it has been going through review committee. It was given an unfavorable recommendation, this last one, this past Tuesday, the Tuesday before that. So I do have Mr. McElrath here to speak on behalf of the plat.
Sir, you have the floor. State your name, sir, for the minutes.
Daniel McElrath. I work at Treadwell Real Estate Development. I'm a representative for the owners, which is 2022 HR Partners Limited. Judge and commissioners, thank you for your time this morning in reviewing this case. As Ms. Cantu had said, or sorry, Ms. Serrato had said, we had submitted this plat right before the change in subdivision regulations was the initial submittal. Kind of during the process, the review process, and then working with Oak Hills Water Supply Corporation, they had suggested removing the 2,500 gallon water storage tank, to which we were kind of required to provide for fire protection under code, and putting in fire hydrants smaller fire hydrants off of a 4-inch line to reduce maintenance costs on the ESD, cost of refilling the tank, and provide better water protection. In the process, we submitted a variance to the subdivision or development review committee. And through that process, there kept being more requests and necessitation of oversizing offsite lines. And it got to a point where it was cost prohibitive to the project to provide offsite lines when kind of the base code allowed for us to provide a 2,500 gallon storage tank. So we withdrew that variance request and just have brought forward the original submittal under the 2010 subdivision regulations with the 2,500 gallon storage tank.
Okay, so are you asking to be grandfathered under the previous?
We had gotten confirmation from the assistant county attorney that we were grandfathered under the previous rules because we submitted before the change in subdivision regulations.
And I need to follow up with that, because since then I've spoken with Tom, and there's some concerns about the applications asking for additional requests after that grandfathering time. And so he has some concerns that they may not be, fall within the grandfather of the old regulations. And so he's asking the commissioners to table this until he's had a chance to really review that.
Okay.
Because then that would determine really what the requirements would be under the.
And I'm going to defer over to Commissioner Aiken, who's firefighter. Do you see any concerns with that?
Well, anytime you go with less, then there's a concern. And of course, I believe our new regulations say 30,000 gallon storage tank. I believe that you still have to have the fire hydrants every 500 feet. And I think we're talking about a 6-inch main and not a 4-inch main in what we have now. And do we have anything in policy about grandfathering anything? I mean, it looks like, is this correct, 1215, y'all submitted a variance?
We submitted the variance at the request of Oak Hills Water Supply Corporation, and after discussions with Ms. Serrato, that was kind of the next step for trying to provide for fire hydrants instead of the 2,500 gallon tank, because we were proposing installing those hydrants on a 4-inch line that were fed by a 4-inch line, knowing that it would provide less than the 250 GPMs of pressure at the hydrants, but would be a superior solution and a middle ground than the 2,500 gallon tank that we were required to provide under, kind of as a baseline under the code, and in which we were grandfathered.
You keep saying grandfathered, but nowhere in our old regulations does it say anything about grandfathered.
Grandfathering is a statutory regulation.
The question was, when they actually made their initial application, and it was while the old regulations were still in effect. However, and then the new regulations came to effect, and then subsequently, I believe they amended their application. And so, twice. So, and some of these discussions were back when Rebecca was in that department, and there was concerns going back and forth as to whether or not it would revert back to their initial filing, or whether or not the subsequent amendments kind of restarted the whole timeline to follow under the new regulations.
Sorry, I apologize.
No, that's fine. And so initially, we were looking at the initial filing of their application, but with the subsequent amendments, Tom's concerned that it may not be.
Okay.
There's no provision for the grandfathering.
In speaking with Mr. Caldwell, he assured me that he would get back with the developer within 2 weeks prior to our next court. So with that being said, I'm going to make a motion that we table this and let our legal complete his investigation into this. And he's assured me that he will have an answer for you before the next Commissioners Court. And we'll contact you.
Mr. Michael Rath, go ahead. Second, no. We have a motion made by Commissioner Paradola, seconded by Commissioner King to table agenda item number 15A. Is there any other discussion?
Only other thing I have in reading through this is that it talks about the ESD possibly being under a hardship to maintain, which I'm assuming is the larger piping and the larger storage tank, but are they accepting?
It's in the current, well, I guess even in the prior regulation, yeah, it's up to the ESD or fire authority that governs that jurisdiction once this thing is built to maintain it. Same thing applies in anywhere in the county.
Okay. And so, at that area, who's the ESD over it? Two?
And right now.
We
y'all-
lost all of them
Right
there.
now, y'all are proposing a 2-inch line to feed the 25 homes in that subdivision?
I believe it's a 2-inch line that was in there. It had gone back and forth between a 2-inch and a 4-inch. I know there was a 2-inch in the original submittal.
It'll never supply needs for a fire department. And it may not supply needs of homes if they all have sprinkler systems going at the same time.
That was what our engineers, I know that in the code, it states that, at least the code that have been operating under, given that we've gotten confirmation of grandfathering from the county a couple of times previously, the 2-inch, the tank needs to be fed by a 2-inch line, and, to meet pressure requirements at the homes, a 2-inch line would suffice according to our engineers. And we'd gone up to a 4-inch to provide for these additional hydrants, and would still be fine doing a 4-inch line for service to the homes. We've kind of taken that cost into it already, but when we started talking about upsizing again to 6 inches and then doing a 6-inch offsite line, in addition to what we were already planning, is when it kind of became a place where we decided to just go back to the base code, under which we believed we were grandfathered, and which we had gotten confirmation both before our comment 1 response. And I think those, if I can talk to the two kind of amendments that you mentioned, my guess is that our first response to comments from KCI and the county, there was the addition of maybe 6 lots because floodplain boundaries had changed. There was no change in lot dimensions or lot size. It was just that more land got pulled out of the floodplain. And so, we confirmed that the addition of those lots would not be considered, would not trigger a new submittal, and that it would fall under the original submittal. And then the second being that variance request, which we subsequently withdrew.
Okay, we have a motion that's been seconded to table. There's no other discussion. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, motion passes. Sir, we'll move as quickly as possible. I'll get together with Mr. Caldwell. We'll look it over and he has your contact information? Okay, very good. Yeah, we'll try to move as quick as.
Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you. Move to agenda item number 16. We have Ms. Christina Moose, our county treasurer, discuss and take action on county treasurer's financial.
Good morning. The information is in your binder. I do apologize. Last week I was show mom at the steer show with my kids, so the report was not emailed. My apologies on that. But this is reporting for the month of January. You will see, as the report shows, the beginning and ending balances as far as any debits and credits we had in all of our checking accounts and our CDs. Next page, all of our investment accounts. Interest rates are still high, but they are dropping slowly a little bit, not too bad. But you will see the interest that we're still receiving is pretty large. As well as that the third one, this would be the second month that we see interest being in that EOC account that we had done in Texas class. So that's a good deal there, as well as any of our lease purchases or outstanding debt. 2 items have been included on there. Well, excuse me, 1 item was corrected and just says precinct 3 case loader, as well as precinct 2 has been added equipment on there. And then follows with of course, all the funds listed with beginning and ending balances for the month of January.
It looks like that money that came from the state TDM for the EMCs, it's already made $61,000 in interest. Is that right?
Yes, sir. So, excuse me, what you'll see on this report is, of course, year-to-date interest, so it just shows the 23,000. But yes, it is last month, December, so it was just a little over 60. Right here is, of course, shows $65,151.57. Yes, because that wasn't even 5,000. So yes, that is the interest.
5 million. 5 million.
Sorry, what did I? 5 million. Let's just add a few more zeros there. 5 million, not 5,000.
Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to accept the county treasurer's financial report.
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner King, seconded by Commissioner Perdola. Is there any other discussion regarding agenda item number 16? Hear none, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, the ayes have it, motion passes. We move to agenda item number 17, Jalen Bodiford, our Human Resource Specialist, presentation of payroll and personnel changes. All right. Move to 18, Ms. Brenda Trevino, our county auditor, discuss take action on county bills.
I have reviewed and approved bills totaling $1,289,455.38.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There are two big invoices, yes. One was for, under the sheriff's department, we got invoice filing for 4 vehicles, totaling a little over
4,000.
4,000, yeah. And then, the biggest one was, our pro rata district, annual payment, which is split up between the 5 counties, and our portion was 800,000 plus. And that is
And what does that encompass? That encompass the district attorney's office?
It does, yes, sir.
Probation?
So if, on page one, it's the combination of the 667,935.27, the 126,625.90, and the 91,99.11. Judge, I'd have to print out the
No,
breakdown of
that's
what each
okay.
one, but it does, the majority of that is the DA's office, and then the 91.99 is health insurance, and I'll can email you the breakdown.
Okay. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion on accepting the county bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills in the amount of $1,289,455.38.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner King. Is there any other discussion regarding agenda item number 18? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Ayes have it, motion passes. We are going to go into recess at 9:56 and wait for 3 more minutes till we go into our special hearing. Stand adjourned for right now. I'm bragging today. I don't know why. I didn't do
For you. Yeah, I know, particularly last night. Then I pulled in here, got too close to the car next to me, just scratched it, so that adds. Oh, no, little lady, worse in here somewhere. So they came and did the reports and everything. There you go. See what happens, do we?
He has not.
We've been lucky enough not to have any warranty work. We had one that had a,
Click it.
and he gave him a warranty.
In the spirit of the guys who were here earlier, you gotta tell a Marine how to do everything.
You know that jugular's in there.
I know.
I don't know where you were when I came in. I didn't see you.
They picked on each other like fire and EMS and law enforcement picked on each other. At the,
Oh, yes. At the Veterans Field?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I bought a $200 filing cabinet for my office to be able to take and deal with this. I'm trying to figure out if I'll, because I'm on, what is it? I think the computer that I inherited is about 6 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
And,
You need a good scanner.
and,
Scan it all.
and the deal is that I'm wondering about scanning all of this paperwork.
Yeah.
Without this, you can't even maintain one.
All right, we move back to agenda number 5. We're back in session to go to our 10 o'clock public hearing, discuss and take action on proposed reauthorization of the Wilson County guidelines and criteria governing tax abatement agreements. Mr. King, you have the floor.
So yeah, we're here to talk about the tax abatement, and if I can get, Eric Williams, yes, sir. Thank you.
Besides Mr. Williams, do we have anybody else for public comment on that? Ms. Gibby? Okay, go ahead, sir. No, you're good. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners. My name is Eric Williams with Ernst & Young. We are here obviously to talk about the renewal of the guidelines and criteria. Just here to support you guys in your discussion and the public hearing. And just, like to remind the court that at this point for the guidelines and criteria, it becomes really an administrative function. Statute requires that the guidelines and criteria be active for any sort of property tax abatement request. And the guidelines and criteria here are not necessarily tied to a specific project. It really just is related to any economic development project seeking a property tax abatement in the county. Again, statute guidelines require, the guidelines be renewed every 2 years. I believe the previous guidelines and criteria were established in November of 2021. So that means they would have expired in November of 23. So just a few things to discuss and a couple of bullet points to remind the court. The guidelines and criteria, as I said, are not right now that's being discussed are not tied to a specific project, right? This is more broad and general in nature. It doesn't commit the county to anything. What you guys are considering here today doesn't lock the county into any actual formal agreement or anything like that. It's really just allowing the conversation to continue, allowing projects and potential investors to bring forward projects to you guys and for the court's consideration. So again, just want to be clear about that. It doesn't lock or commit the county into any specific abatements or dollar amounts or anything like that. It's really just an administrative function moving forward, renewing the guidelines so that the conversation and applications can actually be considered by the court. But again, happy to answer any kind of questions or provide any other color or commentary.
Make sure y'all have any questions.
Not right at the moment.
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Gibby? Ms. Gibby, come on up. You have the floor, ma'am.
Good morning. I appreciate the chance to speak, and I appreciate that they let me take a peek at what they're actually proposing when I'm through talking. In general, I believe that tax abatement programs can work and can be very effective. But of course, the devil is always in the details. And I would suggest 2 changes to what you're looking at. One, on Roman numeral 3, capital C, I would suggest the addition of reinvestment zone includes only the applicant property. I have seen these applications in the past where somebody comes in and they have a project for a piece of property, but they want to put into the redevelopment zone 4 times that space. And that becomes a problem on down the road, okay? So let's let the redevelopment zone and the project property be the same, okay? And the other one is in Roman numeral 4, capital A, smaller Roman numeral 4, at the end are sales to a non-tax paying entity. We don't want to give tax breaks to somebody who comes in and builds their entity and runs it for a couple of years and then sells it to somebody that's not paying any taxes, whether that be a school district or a church, we don't know. But if they build what amounts to a great big warehouse kind of a thing, and they're bringing in a lot of these jobs because they're going to be running stuff through it, and then suddenly that becomes somebody's auditorium, we've lost all the money we gave them, plus any of the future. So I would suggest that if we do that, then they're not going to be selling, it's one thing if, I'm going to use great big names that I don't think are moving into Wilson County anytime soon. If Amazon decided to sell to Walmart, we don't care. As long as there's jobs are still happening and the money's, the things. But if they sold it to the First Baptist Church of San Antonio, then we care. Because then suddenly our tax dollars are gone, okay? Those are the two minor changes that I would recommend. I thank you very much.
Mr. Winnie, I apologize. Are you here you're here to advise us, or you're our legal representation on, I know you're with Ernst & Young, but.
Yeah, so I'm, yes, my name, again, I'm with Ernst & Young, so I'm not your specific legal advisor or anything like that, but yeah, I can, speak to some of those points if you would like.
I would appreciate it if you would embellish or, because I agree with Ms. Kibbe, especially on number 2, because that's one of the things that we've been discussing, and I'm not real sure about the first item, but
Sure.
would you mind addressing those? And
Yeah, absolutely. So I can address the second point that she made in terms of a non-tax, a taxable entity receiving the benefit of the tax abatement, selling then to a non-taxable entity. I think that is something that the county would have to look at. So as each application comes forward, you would be speaking specifically to that particular applicant and the project and, discussing, plans on what they plan to do, that sort of thing. I can tell you in my experience and the clients that I represent, we've not had that particular case, selling to a non-taxable entity. In fact, we've had it go the opposite direction where, the projects acquire something and it's going from a non-taxable then to a taxable entity. But I think it would have to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis.
I guess really the bottom line question is, does that need to be in this, since this is a general coverall? You just have to have this to be able to negotiate with this, folks? Is that something that needs to be in this document, or is that something that would be in the final document where the abatement is?
You could have it as part of both. You could have it as part of both in terms of the actual agreement and the application and the guidelines and criteria here. But again, I would kind of defer and default. I'm not trying to evade the question, but I would default that to your county's attorney to kind of review that.
That was going to be my question, Ms. Huron. I need to ask that question. So I understand what Ms. Kibbe's saying. Yes, if, let's say, it's an oil field company that comes in and gets a tax abatement. So that's all hinging about us giving them the tax abatement.
Correct.
Are we within our legal rights to tell them, well, if you sell this company, okay, it can't go to a nonprofit where we lose? It's kind of like the deal when we had the solar thing come in, and we all talked about, like, if we agree with them, what if they turn around and sell it to CPS Energy and we've lost that revenue? Okay?
Yes, you are. When entering into negotiation into entering into agreement with a company, discussion of sale to a non-taxable entity can be made part of the agreement. We're not going to allow you to do that, or it has to be, whatever requirements the county has. And this agreement in page 9 does provide for modification and termination, section D. So it does state that at any time before the expiration of the tax abatement, even after the agreement has been reached, you can modify the agreement to say, we think that this bigger company is looking to buy you out. We look at this, this nonprofit organization is looking to expand in this area. We want to modify it. So yes, you can do it at the beginning if that's a concern when negotiating. If it looks like, they're only going to be here for a short term and we think they might sell, let's discuss this. Or if during the term, I don't know, the Humane Society decides that they're going to buy this big this plot of land, then you can go back to actually modifying or terminating the agreement. So it does give the county the flexibility on a case-by-case basis to make that determination.
Okay, so
What she said.
okay, so there's no need for modifying, there's another scenario that's going through my mind. You know how our school system is really, it's exploding. And, you know, let's say Dr. Gilstrap calls one day and says, hey, you got this old oil field building there that was on a tax abatement, but we sure need to expand to a bigger bus barn. What do we do for the school district on that?
Terminate, I mean, these regulations provide, you know, of course, with notice and an agreement of the parties. You can terminate the agreement or you can modify it.
Right, so agreed. So, thank you, Ms. Hearn. You're very accurate. Agree with you. So it looks like there is a mechanism in place
So
to
this
allow
would,
for that.
this would, for what Ms. Kibbe was making notice about, this would cover that area as well then, correct?
Well, I think right here, it says, provided that all conditions and obligations in the tax abatement agreement with Wilson County are fulfilled.
Right.
Okay.
So as Mr. Huron indicated, right, so this is the guidelines and criteria, which is broad, allows for any project to bring forward an application for the court's consideration. Then you move to a specific project, and the application and the agreement, the actual language and everything like that becomes subject to negotiation and discussion, in which you can add provisions or redline or strike things, that sort of thing.
Additionally, for her concern is that there will, I mean, it is, when a tax abatement is going to be considered, there is a public hearing, there is
Yes.
notice. And so if there is that concern that, you know, this company has a history of doing this or a reputation of them selling to a, then her concerns can certainly be addressed at that time in a public setting to say, you know, I think we need to consider if they are possibly looking to sell to a
Non-taxable.
tax-exempt
Yeah.
organization. So that's also in place.
Because, I mean, to me, you know, going back to the solar farm, and since that was going to feed CPS Energy's grid, you know, there's a very real possibility that they could have reached a point where, you know, CPS wanted to buy the solar field and own it, and in which case that would really hurt. And I think that's one of our big concerns. Now, other projects that are more on the periphery in the county that feed other, I mean, it's still, I mean, all the energy's in the grid, but, you know, certain power companies have their own distribution and line systems, but some of them are tax exempt and some of them are not, because some of them are municipally owned and some of them are not. Ms. Kibbe,
Part of the question.
Come on up, Ms. Kibbe.
Part of the question is, do you want to just tell people up front that this is the way the rules are going to work? Or do you want to try to spring it to him as you negotiate? Okay, that little phrase that I suggested putting at the end of that was just a way of telling the people up front that this is the way we expect it to be. We expect it to be continuing as a tax-paying entity. And if you're negotiating already a change in it already as you're in the process, in the project, then that is a negotiation. It's not something the commissioners can say, oh, well, you want to sell to them? Oh, no, we won't want. No, it doesn't work that way. There's a negotiation, and that's another thing. Whereas this would just tell them, just bluntly up front, that this is the way we expect the game to play. I think you could, in your motion to take action, simply add that phrase. I'll give you a copy of what I scratched on the back of the agenda, but but I think that that's a cleaner way of handling the process, okay? I think it's important that we are very upfront with people about the way we do business here. It's my opinion. Thank you.
so if we did that and put it under whatever.
D.
Because, I mean, in general terms, and I agree, because I think if they read it and they read that and they don't want to come and see us, there's no skin off our back.
Well, that implies they're already planning on selling to a non-bank entity.
It
You really
could.
want to be doing business.
But I mean, in general terms, I mean, especially for a mega, what I would call the mega project, I mean, we would want that language to be in there. Some of these smaller ones may or may not be, that big a deal. And of course, it would depend on when they sold it. If they were in the 10th year, well, then it probably wouldn't matter, on a 10-year deal, so.
But this has been one of our concerns.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
From the
been
start,
talked
this
about
has
ad
been-
nauseum in dealing with the different.
Ms. Huron, your suggestion?
Well, I would prefer to give the county flexibility, because I understand her position. Let's lock them in to this requirement or to this provision. But you're also locking ourselves in, so that if there is an opportunity, or there may be a nonprofit organization that wants to set up a headquarter, the American Red Cross, you never know. And just as Commissioner Martin stated, well, what if this or what if that? Then the county wants the flexibility to be able to address it individually based on the project and the concerns and what's best for the county at that time. But if you wanted to go ahead and lock that in and let everyone know that's doing business, that this is going to be a restriction of a transfer to a non-taxable entity will not be allowed, or that they have to state in their application, whatever, then, you're free to do that as well.
But I guess if we put it up there, it gives them notice, but also then under what you're saying in the other, on page 9 or whatever, then if we felt that was not appropriate, then we could remove it, correct? Is that correct?
Yeah, the language is pretty clear there in section 6 on the assignment, about if the abatement is not, abatement agreement with Wilson County are not fulfilled, then
You could include a provision stating that there will be no transfer, or there's an agreement to be no transfer to a non-taxable entity unless approved by Commissioners Court, or unless, you can always, there's always a rule, and then there's always an exception to the rule. So you can draft that with an exception if that's something that you also would consider. But the way this is, it does take care of that concern if it comes up in the future. But if you want to make that certain regulation, you're welcome, free to do that.
Okay, look.
All right, so does someone want to make a motion with the amendment to the wording? Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to go, because she had the other point of only the applicant's property, and we haven't addressed that item yet. And I agree with that in general terms, but looking for some more specifics and pros and cons and.
Yes, if I may. So some pros and cons associated with that particular bullet point regarding the reinvestment zone boundary relative to the project boundary, right? So clearly, if you have the project boundary that it's going to be developed in whatever project, let's say it's 50 acres, but sometimes the reinvestment zone might be 100 acres, right? Around, there's a perimeter or a buffer zone, right, around that. The purpose in doing that is, and again, you can go in either direction. You can make the reinvestment zone specific to that 50-acre project, right? And it's very tight, only around that project. The disadvantage or limiting it to the specific project boundary is that a new reinvestment zone, let's say you have another project or another development occurring next door or down the road, a new reinvestment zone would have to be approved for that particular project. Right, exactly right. And so it becomes more of an administrative process and procedural thing, as Ms. Huron mentioned. There's just, you know, it's subject to public hearing, subject to all the other administrative functions. The advantage of making the project a reinvestment zone larger or giving that buffer around the particular project is that other developments, other developers or other projects that are interested can come in and basically use the existing reinvestment zone that's already in place. Does that make sense?
Talking about support groups, we have a big,
Oh, Toyota. and then
yeah,
all of
Toyota,
that.
Caterpillar, any of them that are within an hour's drive from here, you know, they have to have people help them take and make things happen. The question is are we willing to give up control of, let's say one of those vendors does something and helps them out, but we're not sure they're gonna help Wilson County out.
Right. So again, again, it's still subject to each, on a case-by-case basis, each applicant still has to come forward before the court, still submits an application, still subject to approval, right?
Then what's the difference in the administrative thing, if each applicant
Sure.
still has to come forward and do that? The danger, from my point of view, okay, let's face it, I went through this at a school level, and they granted this to, was that we had an entity that had a lease agreement on 300 acres that was including, which was all owned by one property owner. It was including in their project and reinvestment zone 90 properties and 60 property owners. Okay? None of who could then be stuck in that project and reinvestment zone, whether or not they wanted to be there. Okay? And that's what I'm trying to prevent, is somebody coming in and doing this great big huge lovely thing, only that it affects people a lot more than what they wanted it to affect. And that, by the way, is the only project that was being considered at the first of last year that hasn't yet decided to admit that it's going belly up of that type in this county. Okay. And so this is a way, if you still have to do the whole thing to be for the project, then just do the redevelopment zone of the project at the same time. You make the approval, it's no big deal. If they want one next door, they just put it in the paperwork and you're right. Because I can't imagine the county saying, Caterpillar can come in here, but the people that supply your whatever it is can't. Really? No, that's not the kind of thing that any commissioner's court, not only this one, but any commissioner's court I've ever known would not approve. It is, but it requires the people who are invested to be the people who are running that show. Okay? Like I said, I think that these things in general are good things, and most of them probably, but history has taught me a couple of things about these that I just would rather avoid before I get to the problem.
Thank you. So, again, you know, there is no harm. There's no entities being affected negatively or at a disadvantage by establishing a reinvestment zone that is actually larger than the specific project boundary. There's nothing on the tax roll. There's nothing. There's no tax revenue being lost. There's no tax revenue being gained. It is literally just a project boundary or a reinvestment zone boundary that sits there and then allows other entities to potentially come in and say, hey, there's already in existence a reinvestment zone. So it's already gone through the vetting process, already gone through the public hearing process. We'd like to see, and we're interested in building next door, developing a project next door. So the mechanisms and the reinvestment zone are already in place at that point.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, to me, part of it is, you know, in looking at economic development, which we're just in the beginning stages of that could be somewhat important from the standpoint of it might make things move faster because you don't have to go through the administrative
Correct.
side of it. And I mean, to me, you could say, okay, well, you know, the reinvestment zone couldn't be any more than, say, 50% larger than the area that you're actually developing, or 100% or double it or whatever. You know, to put some limitation from them creating some huge giant things, since we don't really have any recommendations or any knowledge of where we're really going with our economic development today. And of course, this expires in 2 years, so.
Correct.
It'll be revisited again in 2 years.
Exactly right.
And with the projects that we anticipate coming forward right now, I don't see that as a particular issue on this particular item. I do understand. I'm sorry, Ms. Sharon, you.
No. I was pretty much going to reiterate what you were saying. It is for 2 years, and initially, when they do their application, we will know what that reinvestment zone would be. And if they're not allowed to change that without filing a new application, or if they want to change that, there's a provision here that states that there would have to be a new redesignation of the reinvestment zone if we're looking at them spreading or taking or doing more. So, I mean, there are provisions for oversight to kind of keep an eye on them on what they're doing.
Correct.
In 2 years, you know. So.
Correct me if I'm right or wrong, just because we enlarge the investment zone and someone owns 10 acres in that investment zone, they're not forced to sell, right?
No.
Correct.
It's up to the landowner if they don't want to sell or participate just because they're in that reinvestment zone, they don't have to.
That's correct.
I mean, it's still up to the landowner to decide whether they want to sell or not.
That's correct.
Number 7, Roman numeral number 7. Be the last page, basically, or page 10. So is it commonplace for these to have, unless amended by a 3/4 vote of the court, rather than majority rules?
No, it doesn't, it doesn't, I mean, 3/4 is allowed because it's a majority. It says in any vote, if for some reason, on any motion that is entertained by the court, 3 votes, you know, would pass anything, so that would be sufficient. If one of you is in a disagreement and the other 4 of you agree, then it would pass.
Well, the only thing that in my mind sets up is that if a project comes up in precinct 4 and I've got problems with it, the people in precinct 4 have problems with it, but it's gonna take and make money for the rest of the county, but it's gonna directly affect only precinct 4, then 3 commissioners can take and vote it past the 1 commissioner who has all of the ramifications of it. So,
That's correct.
you know, I'm a little bit nervous about that because it makes it easier for different sides of the county to be able to go, well, it's not in my backyard, so let's go for it. And I don't believe that this court would do that, but it's just one of the things that whenever I saw that, it struck me as,
That certainly is a concern, but, I mean, that's just kind of the democratic process of majority. You're all individual, but then you're all one group as well, so.
But is this a statutory?
This 3/4 vote, is it statutory?
Well, I probably need to check on the government code, but yes, I mean, by majority rule, unless there's just something that specifically states it has to be unanimous, then it is by majority. But, I mean, I can look at the government code if you want to know for sure.
do we
Because then
have
you
a
could
problem
also
with
have
it
the
being?
opposite effect of one commissioner saying, I don't want it, and if it's not in my group, or if it's not in my precinct, then I'm gonna vote no, and you're not gonna get it, so it kind of works both
Right, and I mean, that,
I think in our experience, if I may, in our experience, I think most of it has been majority vote, but it's your prerogative.
All right, do we need to table this, or we're spending a lot of time on this, or do y'all want to entertain?
Questions, I mean, you can table and we can
Yeah.
do it at the next meeting, and I will specifically, look at the vote and the, the non-taxable entity, so.
If I may, if I may, I mean, I would just, make a suggestion or recommendation just to say it's possible, to approve or move forward with the abatement criteria, guidelines and criteria contingent upon the few items that have been discussed here today.
Well, we need to know what that language is going to be first.
Okay,
I mean,
gotcha.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we could do it such that we just direct the county attorney to review the 3 items that we just discussed and bring us back a revision, with a revision and recommendation to the next court meeting.
If that's the case, let's go ahead and table agenda item number 5 till we get that done. Sorry?
Oh.
Mr. Fay, come on in.
Hi. I just had a question. I didn't know if it pertained to this. At the last committee meeting for the restrictions, the 2 gentlemen that got up and spoke, the one from your area, there was 150, and then the other one, well, actually your area too, where the sewage was, that both of them said as far as lot sizes and other requirements, that some state law says that they can do what they feel, per se. Isn't that basically what they were saying? That the county can't say lot sizes, and then per se the one on 150, that he didn't have to abide by the new 6-inch mains.
Yeah, that's not this
That's
tax
not-
abatement, that,
It's not on this.
that was totally something
That'll
different.
be, if you want to discuss that, that's the
Yeah, that
1
was-
o'clock meeting, right, today?
Not
Public
No,
forum
no.
for,
No, it's not
That's-
today.
That's
Or is
next
it-
month.
or is it next?
We'll let you know when that hearing is, but this is totally different.
This is
Right,
just tax
right.
abatement.
But is that part, both of them underneath that?
That's all I'm just.
But I mean, is that, have
That's
we,
all our subdivisions, we're talking about tax abatement.
Oh, okay.
We've got to stay on track with this.
okay. Because I was asking if they say some legal opinion on that, because that's where it's,
We're getting more legal opinion on that, but
okay,
We're working on that. They threw a lot of stuff out, so we're checking.
okay. So that'll be the one, that's the meeting is gonna be when? Next month?
yeah, it's sometime next month. It was in the paper. I don't remember exactly what it is right off the top of my head.
Okay.
But yes, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to table agenda item number 5 until we get that language worked out with the county attorney's office.
Yes, let's go ahead and table, I'll make a motion to table item agenda number 5 until we get this language figured out within the county attorney's office.
second.
Motion made by Commissioner King, seconded by Commissioner Aiken. Is there any other discussion regarding agenda item number 5?
Gentlemen, I just want to be clear what it is, you want the, non-taxable, the transfer to possible non-taxable entities,
Correct.
the reinvestment zone.
Well, that would be, yeah, so, let me find where I made my notes here. So it was, yeah, paragraph 3C in the findings to figure out what you think the recommendation is on applicant-only property. On page 6. And then on page 7, under 4A, little Roman numeral 4, not selling to a non-tax paying entity. And then on page 10, the majority or 3/4, how that should be worded.
Well, we need to find out whether that's a statute or not.
Right, right.
All right. Okay, any other discussion on agenda item number 5? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those against, motion passes. It will be tabled. We will now adjourn our special meeting at 10:35 and resume back into general session. And I think that's it, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner Peredola. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, we are now adjourned. Time is 10:36.